Stay tuned because for the next 60 minutes, Motorsports Unlimited is on the air. Hi, I'm Jerry Bryant, and these are the lovely ladies of motorsports. And all this hour, we're going to have 60 minutes of action-packed excitement. All kinds of exciting things will happen. And we got the famous Bill Wildt, and we got all kinds of other good stuff that's happening all this hour. Motorsports Unlimited, 60 minutes of non-stop action. So let's go to the studio right now.
Thanks, Jerry, and hi, everybody. Welcome to the studio headquarters of Chicagoland's most watched, most talked about Access television series. I'm Samantha Bentley, and this is the 987th edition of Motorsports Unlimited. Today, we're taking you to the 25th anniversary edition of the Spring ChevyVetteFest Car Show. It's particularly exciting this year because, as our regular viewers know, the event has changed hands. Al Burkey and Ken Hanna, the men who created ChevyVetteFest, have turned over the reins to Championship Auto Shows, the folks who produce the annual World of Wheels extravaganza. We were more than a little interested in how this event would unfold, as Al Burkey and Ken Hanna established extremely high standards. We weren't really worried, though, because the World of Wheels also ranks among the best of the best. Still, we were curious. Let's join Bill at McCormick Place on Chicago's lakefront and have a look.
Winter is officially over. We are at the spring edition of ChevyVetteFest 2006. And as everyone knows, there are two editions of ChevyVetteFest. We open the winter car show season with the fall edition of ChevyVetteFest. And if I had a date, I'd give it to you, but I don't. I hope by the time I edit this, I can maybe tell you. But the winter car show season opens with the fall edition of ChevyVetteFest. And the winter car show season closes with the spring edition. And a couple of things happen here. People that are familiar with the motorsport community know that people are working on their cars and building for the new upcoming season, and some of them will get them ready in time to just make the spring ChevyVetteFest thing. And it's a nice place to kind of give people a preview of what's going to go on in the summer. But there's something else going on. There's almost sort of a camaraderie. This is a social gathering point as much as anything else for people, kind of saying that some people will only see each other during the winter car show season because these are bigger, much more elaborate shows than they have in the summer, and people come from all over the country to attend these shows. So they'll only see them during the winter, and at the same time they start meeting friends that are going to be around the more informal summer car show season. In any event, when we talk about old friends, and I take a look at an exquisite car here, I am of course reminded, folks, I'm not sure, Chuck, see if you can get a shot of the guy here in the center. This was the Motorsports Unlimited announcer for at least a year, Bob Delia, and we featured some of his other cars on the show before. Bob is a perfectionist, and he does first class isn't the right word. It's double, triple first class is what all of his stuff is. He's got two street rods that are absolutely the best in the country, so good that they have to be kept in glass cases so nobody touches them. And he announced that he was going to build a 59 Chevy, very unusual choice. We're going to talk about all of that, and guess what? Just finished, just completed. Chuck, show the audience the car. This is something of a trailblazer, and we're going to explain all of that in a moment. First, Bob, tell the folks who you are.
I'm Bob Delia from Libertyville, Illinois, and I was the announcer for Motorsports for a year and a half.
And enjoyed it, say that too.
I did so.
And you are?
Barb Delia.
Okay, his wife.
His wife.
Okay, and you are?
And I'm Mark Lopak. I own Hot Rod Auto, and I'm the builder of the 59.
Okay, as I understand this then, Bob, somehow you got together with these guys, as you typically do. You're a hands-on guy. You do a lot of work yourself and all that. However, there's no one guy building something like that.
No, it took six of us, a dedicated period of 3 years straight. We worked 5, 6, 7 days a week, and the team of 5 others and myself worked full-time, dedicated our lives for that 3-year period to finish this project. It was our intention to build a car to compete for the Riddler Award in Detroit, and our objective was to get in the grade 8, and we did achieve that objective.
We should mention, let me see, well, I guess we'll talk about it right now, then we'll get into having you explain the car. The show thing, there are some very prestigious shows in the country. Two that come to my mind, are the Oakland Roadster Show, although I understand it's a new name now, but it's still the same show. At least 50 years in existence, and what they do is they crown the world's most beautiful roadster, typically a traditional American Street Rod T or something along those lines. Correct. But that has to be a roadster, and this obviously is not a roadster, so you wouldn't be eligible to compete in the Oakland Roadster Show. The other one is the Detroit show, which features the very prestigious Riddler Award. And all of the cars that run at that level, these are the big dogs. This is the Chip Foose, the Boyd Coddingtons, the Troy Trepagnes. These are the best of the best, not in Illinois, in the world. And competing for this, you walk in there with a 59 Chevy. Everybody else has got a 36 Ford, all traditional American street rods. Strikes me as you're trying to blaze a new trail here of another generation of street rod.
I'll tell you what, Bill, when we went there, from the minute we pulled it off the trailer, including the judges, the participants, and the public, we rocked them. We rocked them in Detroit at the Autorama. They were just in awe when they saw this particular car.
That's right, and I should say, even to be qualified to be included in the group, you have to be better than the best in the world.
I'm so proud of the car. I'm so part of the crew. Mark and his crew in building the car. We all worked, my wife designing the interior, the color combination in the car. I'm just so proud. The car was built with so much heart, and it just made us just bubble over with excitement when we saw the response. I built a car, Bill, of course, for my wife and myself, but I also built it because I think it represents a period in time in automotive history where the auto manufacturers were building chrome and fins. You saw it with the 57 Chrysler. You saw it with the 59 Cadillac and the 59 Chevrolet. And of course, being a bow tie Chevrolet guy all my life and always building Chevrolets, I had to stick with the bow tie 59 Chevrolet Impala.
It would have been that or a 59 Cadillac?
Yes, you're right. You're right.
Okay, what have you done to the car? Tell us about it.
Well, overall, the car, some of the main highlights, there's over 550 changes that were made on the car. Some of the major things, Mark manufactured the side trim. They're made out of 1 inch wide, half an inch thick brass stock, so all the side trim is handcrafted. There's over 1,000 hours just in making the side trim on the car. The car itself, it has a very elaborate 1956 Nomad Chevy two-tone. All the glass from PPG was custom tinted to match the exterior color of the car, so you'll see there's a very close comparison there. As far as the features, we can go on and on. A lot of hand fabric.
Let's do engine and driveline, and then we'll get to the fabrication part of it.
Okay, as far as the engine, it's a 540 cubic inch big block Chevy engine. The car is dynoed at 714 horsepower. I also have two 25-pound nitrous oxide bottles in the trunk. When I hit the switch for that, that brings the horsepower up to 1,000 horsepower. The transmission was imported from Germany. It's called a Gertag. They use it on their racing V12 BMWs in Germany. It's a
manual trans?
It's a 5-speed stick.
Oh, that's cool. I like that.
It's a 5-speed stick. In the rear end, I stuck with the original 59, but the ring and pinion is specially made by a Canadian engineer. It's twice as thick. I use Mosier axles, and it's a 411 Positraction rear end. We decided, all of us, to stick with the stock frame because it goes with the profile of the car, the 59 Chevy, and we just modified that to the great extent. A lot of that work, and most of it, was done by Mark and his crew in really customizing the frame.
I'm trying to imagine the clutch linkage and transmission linkage and all that from those rear parts, none of which you can buy anything for. You must have fabricated everything.
That is correct. Yes, we did.
Nice work. So you guys do machine shop work as well as sheet metal work?
There's pretty much no aspect to building a car that we can't accomplish.
Well, I'm impressed. This is something extra special. You mentioned when we were talking earlier that you've gone so far, and this, by the way, if you knew Bob Delia, this is no surprise. You have gone so far as every exposed bolt is engraved.
I had it hand engraved with 59.
Absolutely incredible attention to detail, and if you knocked their socks off at the Riddler show, you got something special.
We're just, again, Bill, we're so proud of the crew, my wife and I. The car has just met all of our expectations.
Now, one of the things we talk about, because as you know, motorsports, yes, it's about machinery, there's no question about that, but it's equally about people. And when I look at something like this, Chuck, show the audience the car. When I look at something like this, I am encouraged about the young people. Apparently there are some out there that are doing more than playing video games and playing their radios too loud. Apparently there are some there that have the skills and ability to take a flat sheet of metal and pound it into something gorgeous, because as I understand it, there's no glass on this car.
That is correct. All the fabrication in the interior and under the hood is all made out of steel.
So somebody took a piece of steel and an English wheel and a sandbag and a mallet and pounded flat sheet metal into this beautiful sculpture.
It was a case of fit, take it off, fit, take it off, until we had it perfect.
It's absolutely beautiful. I'm going to do round robin here. We'll start with Barb. Anything you want to mention about the car that you're particularly pleased about?
I love the underneath The hood.
Underneath
How
the hood.
Just the glass. It has a glass effect to it.
Okay, I can see that. Yes, that is gorgeous. And that's the part you think is most pleasing.
I do.
Okay, Bob?
I just want to make one comment. When I first brought the car home, my wife saw it in the garage, and her first expression was, "This car's so big." So if you look at the license plate, you'll see the name of the car is so big.
You know, interestingly enough, because I'm from the era, it doesn't seem that big to me. I'm thinking 59 Cadillac, 57, you know what I'm saying?
I
But
understand.
but in today's light, it is
a
so
giant.
big. Yes. How about yourself? What are you particularly proud of, and what your shop did and all that?
Well, I'd like to thank first Bob and Barb Delia for letting us build their dream. And I'm proud that my crew was able to accomplish the task, and they sacrificed a lot of their time and their lives in order to complete this. So that's what I'm truly proud of.
Well, hopefully, Chuck, show the audience the car one more time. Hopefully, your guys at the shop, and for that matter, Bob Delia, will consider this something of a, I don't want to say business card because motorsport isn't about business, but something as a personal card, that this is what you do. This is what you can do. And now, Chuck, if you would, draw your camera shot back just a little bit, get the three folks in it as well as the car, because as I said, motorsport is not just about machinery, it is about the people and the machinery.
An incredible piece of work created in Schiller Park right here in the Chicago area and capable of competing at the world's most prestigious shows. We are impressed and proud. Hi, I'm Patty Borwitz, and we're just getting started. But already we have to pick up the pace because there was so much to see. From Bob Delia's showstopper to historic Yankos.
Now we get to the craziness, folks. You cannot go to Chevy Vet Fest without getting involved with the name Yanko. So much so that it has reached, in my opinion, craziness proportions. There were only a couple of hundred of these made, and as a matter of fact, they weren't even made. They were kind of a dealer car. And yet, these things are going for, well, I don't know, I've heard some of them going for $1 million a piece now. It's absolutely crazy. And we've got a guy here that's apparently an expert in Yankos. Came from, not local, well, we'll find out. You are.
Brian Henderson from Latrobe, Pennsylvania.
All the way from Pennsylvania?
Yes.
All the way for this, just for the Chevy Vet Fest, that's what you came in for?
That's what we're here for. That's exactly right.
What is your involvement with Yankos?
We own a company called Supercar Workshop in Pennsylvania, and we restore, basically focus on the 427 Copos from Yankos, the ZL1s, the Dickie Harrell cars, and the factory Copo Camaros and Novas. That's what we do.
So your entire shop has a career of 200 cars, and there's probably only 100 of them left?
Well, yeah, we've done quite a few of them. So.
No, what I'm getting at is it's not exactly like there's 100,000 of them out there to work on.
Well, there's plenty of us for us to do. So.
Is that right?
Yeah, we
give the audience an idea. The Yanko thing. What I talk real fast, and you can fill in the blanks. Don Yanko was a Chevy dealer, and he was a performance-minded guy, and he was in a position to kind of twist Chevrolet's arm to put the big high-horsepower 427s into the Camaros, the Chevelles, even the Novas, and his first project, if I remember, it was a Corvair Stinger. Right, okay. So he was in a position somehow to twist General Motors, because this is not something they wanted to do, and they came out with a backdoor way of doing this. So in other words, you couldn't go to a Chevrolet dealer in Florida and buy a Yanko Camaro. You had to go to Don Yanko.
Well, Yanko had a nationwide dealership network, and he basically distributed his cars through that dealer network. So you could actually go to Florida and buy a Yanko Camaro, but it was built in the Canonsburg area and then shipped to Florida or one of the participating dealers that would get the cars from Yanko to sell. So that's how those came about. But the car like we have right here is a Copo Camaro, which you said earlier is basically Yanko's brainchild. One of the things that the original Copo Camaros were the Yanko cars, and then other dealerships did get wind of and were able to bring their own cars on board as well. So
okay, we're going to get to that part of the story in a second. I don't want to leave anybody out, and you are.
Al Morris.
From?
I'm Downers Grove.
And?
Fran Roberts, Bell Vernon, Pennsylvania.
Okay, you came all the way from Pennsylvania also?
Yes, this is my car.
Oh, this one is yours. Tell us about it. What have we got?
It's a 69 Copo Camaro, Cortez Silver.
Okay, we got a lot of explaining to do. We've been talking Yanko, and we threw the words Copo in there. Nobody knows what we're talking about. Here's the way it worked, folks. Copo is corporate
Central Office Production Order.
Central Office Production Order. This is complicated. When you work with a bureaucracy of the size of General Motors, you got to have the ducks in a row. So they had to come up with a way of putting it into paperwork to end up with 427 big in the small cars where they weren't supposed to be, and come up with some special order number. Some of the Copo cars became Yankos by virtue of, we interviewed his daughter, they used to put the stickers on in the shop. They were the Copo cars with the Yanko stickers. How am I doing?
You're getting there. You're pretty close.
Okay. Well, no, I need all the help I can get, and I want the audience to understand.
The early Yenko cars were all hand fabricated cars. The 67 and 8 cars were basically hand prepared at Yenko Chevrolet, engine swap cars, basically built around 396, 375 horse Camaros, and then changed to 427s. In 69, he did work a deal with General Motors to provide the cars with the factory installed engines. It was supposed to be an under the table deal, and nobody was supposed to be able to get that car but Yenko. It was an exclusive, sort of like a Shelby
Other dealer
Mustang.
says, hey, wait a minute.
Exactly. Other dealers said, wait a minute, if Yenko gets them, why can't we get them as well? So the original first few months went pretty well for Yenko when the Yenko Camaro was the deal. It was similar to a Shelby Mustang. But other dealers got wind of that, and they were able to bring other cars through the Copo system for their dealers, which is typical of what we have right here beside us.
Do we have an idea of how many Copo cars there were?
It was around 1,000, I think.
Yeah, the number, the Copo number is a little gray a little bit, but the Yenko number is pretty well established at around
How many Yenkos?
Camaro-wise, around 198, Chevelles 99.
And how many are left? Do you have any idea?
Well over 100 of the Camaros are still accounted for, but the Chevelles are a little bit, probably in the 20s. So there's still a few of those out there.
And folks, if you wonder what I'm talking about when I say the craziness, if you watch the Barrett Jackson things at all, pristine Yenko Camaro, what are they going for?
There's all different levels, but
I know it's what somebody will pay for. Give us an idea. They knew they were about $5,000.
Yeah, a little under 5,000 actually, but today you're probably $250,000 to $350,000.
$250,000.
You won't have much change left.
You don't bat an eye. That doesn't strike you as strange?
No, because that's in the Copo world, that's relatively mild compared to what the ZL1s will do.
It's the L1, the audience should know that's just an engine change. It has the all aluminum big block, which would probably be $1 million car.
Yeah, pretty much. That's where they're right around the $1 million mark.
And that's crazy.
Yeah,
it's our sport.
It's the sport, yeah.
Okay, now you specifically wanted a Copo, or did you want a Yenko? What was your?
Well, we really stumbled across the car, and I ended up buying.
How do you stumble across a car that there are people searching the country's barns for?
Well, Brian knows more about it than I do, and we was at a swap meet and found it, and the people didn't know what it was.
So you restored it then?
Yes.
Okay, so the whole car had to be done?
Oh yeah, we did the whole car from top to bottom.
Okay, now I would imagine in a way it's kind of gotten easier now, because in the very early days of this enthusiasm for the Yenko, people had to go out and find everything. If you've got a shop devoted to this, you kind of know what's going to be missing and probably have things on the shelf, or no?
Yes and no.
Still hard.
Yeah, the really specialized parts are still extremely hard to find, and every car that comes pretty much has that same list of things they need, and it becomes pretty expensive to find those items, but they can be found. It's just the bar gets raised on every car, I think, so.
You know, I'll tell you something, it seems to me we're kind of spoiled here in Chicago because we do the ChevyVetteFest shows every year, and every year there's at least a half a dozen Yenkos there, so we kind of get spoiled, think they're not everywhere.
Well, no, they're not really everywhere, but they're out there. I mean, we pretty much know where they all sit, but...
Yeah, these guys all talk to each other. My good friend John Platania is in that loop, and if somebody comes up with one, he knows instantly if it's a clone or somebody's, what they're doing. Do you drive the car?
Not at all.
Not yet at all.
Not yet.
It don't even have license plates on
And
it.
the joy of this car was in the driving.
No, it's done. I can look at it, and that's fine.
Brownie said he beat him up in the day. He doesn't need to beat him up again.
I've been through all that with them back in the day. I was 19 when they was in 69, so I run through them all.
So this is something you were reaching back for?
Yeah, well, I've been reaching back on a few of them.
Oh, you got a few of them going?
I have a few of them going.
Well, listen, first of all, welcome to Chicago. Hope you're having a good time. Hope you enjoy. Wish we had better weather for you. It was nice last week. You should have been here then. One more thing I want to do before we close this. Don't run away, guys. Rena, if you would, step in here, please. We're going to do something special today. Just step over the court. We've got Rena Borowitz here, and as you all know, Rena Borowitz comes into the studio and helps us all the time. And this is a matter of pure luck. I'm sure you guys know the Ogden Top and Trim Shop. We can't go to a car show where we haven't seen interiors done by this shop. By accident, her lovely daughter, Patty, if you would come over here, please. Her lovely daughter came on Motorsports Unlimited. It's got to be a year and a half or two ago, something like that, right?
Of course.
Yes, and kind of started getting interested in what we were doing, and the mom came with all the time, and properly so. And we stumbled on it quite by accident. She's the head seamstress at Ogden Top and Trim. She's been doing it for 20 years. I would imagine her fingerprints are on literally half of the cars at this show. Would you agree?
That's correct.
Okay, and what I asked her to do, because I want to take advantage of her on this thing, is you know as well as I do, guys, we hear it over and over again. Guys will say, what did you do in the car? everything but the paint and interior. Everything but the paint and interior. Once in a while you get somebody to tackle the paint, almost never the interior. Well, I've got the lady that does the interiors, and I want her to show off some of the stitches and all that, because I'd kind of like to encourage guys to give it a shot. There's no sense to be afraid of any of this stuff. You'll make some mistakes, you'll throw some stuff away, but you do that when you build engines and chassis and all the rest of it. Am I right?
Sure, why not? Yeah. You make mistakes, that's how you learn.
Yeah, would you jump into a sewing machine knowing?
Not a sewing machine, no.
You're not going to do it?
No, not today.
Oh, okay. Well, listen, guys, thanks a lot. Anything you want to mention about the car that we haven't thought to mention that I should have?
I think we've done everything. I don't know.
We did the best job we could, and we were rewarded with a $9.99 out of 1,000, so that was pretty good.
$9.99 out of 1,000 at a show at the level of Chevy Vet Fest. You got to be pretty proud. Your work, you're proud of your work, and you're proud of your car, I'm sure.
Absolutely, and we brought a Nova as well, and it scored a $9.99 as well, so that's about as good as we can get.
Yeah, near perfect is about as good as anybody can get. Anyhow,
Bill,
yes.
I'd like to add, I've been judging Brian's cars and Yankos for a lot of years now. He kind of sets the mark. He's not only a great guy, but he builds like the nicest cars I've ever seen.
And once again, he's sort of young. We talk about this over and over on Motorsports Unlimited. If you're wondering if our youth has any talented, creative, just take a look. Don't be so worried. Come to the car shows. You'll see some, am I right? You'll see some incredibly talented people.
Absolutely. There's plenty here to learn, and there's a lot of great people.
And maybe with the little piece that I'm going to do with Rena today, we can encourage somebody out there to start. Maybe just try an armrest or something. Just try it, guys. Get the sewing machine, you bet. Anyhow, folks, we've got so much more. And once again, I see Chuck is grimacing. I'm running too long.
Bill gets so enthused about this stuff, he often loses track of time. Hi, I'm Janine Lauschat. Now let's move from the historic Yenko muscle cars to a handcrafted muscle car on steroids.
An opening camera shot is always obvious on a car like this when you got a big GMC-style blower sticking through the what should be the hood and dual 4-barrel carburetors. And as Chuck pulls his camera shot back, you'll see we've got I believe it to be my favorite year Chevy 2. And yes, I say Chevy 2 and not Nova. I believe it's a 66. First of all, you are?
Yeah, Tony Flosky.
Where are you from, Tony?
Detroit, Michigan.
Tell us about your car. What have we got?
I got it's a 67.
67? I thought it was a 66.
The only difference between a 6 and 7 are the headlight bezels. Other than that, the cars
they were near identical.
Yes,
okay, go ahead. Now, did they call them in 67 Novas or Chevy 2s?
Chevy 2 Nova.
Folks, it's a little bit goofy because it seems to me the Chevy 2 came out in 1965, and 65 and 66 were called Chevy 2s, and somewhere in the 67, 68, they dropped the Chevy 2 and called them Novas. Do I have it right?
Yeah, you're correct there. Yeah, it was a Chevy 2 is what it was, and then they went more or less to the Nova.
Okay, tell us what we got.
We've got a 67 Nova here that it's got the Chevy 350 in it, built it's a 355 with a 671 wheel and blower on it, custom paint and interior. Interior done by Seatworks out of Mount Clemens, Michigan, and paint was done by Billy Biggs out of Waterford, Michigan, and the car was basically built by Toy Shop Race Cars in Waterford.
Now, did you do any of the hammering and sawing yourself?
Yeah, I did a lot of the underneath work. The finish work I had to have done. I didn't have the equipment to do all the final work and paint, but most of the hard work, it took us 3 years to complete this car.
We find most of the time we interview people at car shows that the guys will almost inevitably say something like, they did everything but the paint and interior.
Yeah,
would you be kind of the same guy?
Basically the same guy. My son did the interior.
Really? Now, is he an upholsterer?
He was working at a shop at the time, and at that time he goes, Dad, we got to get a father and son project. And that's when we went to looking for a car, and I've always liked the Chevy 2s. So went out and found this one and bought it and brought it home. And my family, the rest of the family, my daughters and wife looked at it and said, this is a piece of junk. What are you bringing this home for? But after 3 years, we got it to where it's at. And then, like I say, my son, through where he was at, they did the interior in it and did a terrific job.
Is there anything much better in life than working on a car project with your son?
No, it's a bonding.
That's the best, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know what would be even better?
What's that?
If you brought your daughter in there with it.
Yeah.
Did she have any interest at all in it or no?
Yeah, I got two daughters, and they both had interest in it. In fact, they were here earlier today, and they're out shopping right now.
Boy, what a way to keep a family together, huh?
Yeah, we've done the indoor car shows for a couple years. Well, back in 97, 98, we actually did the full circuit for the ISCA, and we went everywhere. Yeah, we went everywhere as a family.
Oh boy, isn't that great? Now, how are you enjoying the ChevyVetteFest show?
I am enjoying this very much.
Now, is this your first time here? Or?
First time here in Chicago.
Really? Well, welcome. I wish we had a little better weather for you, but I promise you we do have nice days here too. Have they judged your car yet or no?
Yes, they have, and I don't know how we're standing.
They haven't done the awards yet.
Yes, it's.
Well,
That's
great car. The one thing that the audience, I'm going to try to get a picture of it, folks. Chuck, go back to the car. I'm going to try to get a picture of it. The one thing you can't really see is the rear tires on this thing. And all I can tell you is, oh my God.
Way before my time, but very cool. It's interesting hearing these guys talk about their cars like it was yesterday when they were produced. Yet, it was long before I was born. Now, as you know, Bill is particularly proud of our local Chicagoland builders, and he found another example of someone from our area who can compete in the world-class levels.
Well, I finally tracked him down. This is another one of these people we are so proud of in the Chicagoland area. And I've mentioned this on Motorsports Unlimited so many times. And I'm sure they do some fine work out in California, and I'm sure they do some fine work on the East Coast too. But folks, I will tell you, Motorsport was born here in Chicago Thanksgiving Day 1895, and we still have the best. Now, we've shown you Bob Delia's car today, all entirely built by a local shop here in Schiller Park. We've shown you Troy Trepagne's work over the years. Clearly, we're not talking about the best in Illinois, we're talking about the best in the world. And now, once again, another guy that's right on the same shelf with those guys is Brent Jarvis. I've been chasing him down trying to get this car on the show for 3 different shows because apparently he doesn't hang around his car. Tell the folks who you are.
Brent Jarvis.
And Brent, you've got a little bit of a checkered past in that you're sort of a racer.
Absolutely. Drag racer, long-time drag racer, NMCA, Chicago Wise Guys. I've been doing it for years.
That's right, and I think we first ran into you. You've got that awesome, I want to say 58 Corvette?
Close, 59.
59 was close. Okay, 59 Corvette that you ran with the Chicago Wise Guys with.
That's right, I still have it.
And it impressed me because it was a show quality car, but I've got to tell you, all of the Chicago Wise Guy stuff is show quality, and even among show quality cars, it was a standout. But I was surprised when I found out that you are more of a bodywork guy than a racer guy. Fair enough?
That's right.
Because since that time, we've done a piece. I got to drive one of your Model A's that you guys restored.
That's right.
So you guys are all over the map with cars.
Anywhere. Whatever people want us to do, we'll do. Our specialty is really the body and paint end of it, but we're doing complete builds on these cars now from the ground up.
Tell us what we've got here. By the way, this is gorgeous. I absolutely love the color, and I love the fact that you've got it looking like it's mechanical fuel injection and it's electronic fuel injection. Very cool.
Oh, yeah.
Or is it mechanical?
It's Hillborn electronic.
Hillborn electronic is very cool. I like that because that's from my days, you know?
Absolutely, and you know what those are like in the old days.
Impossible to drive in the street.
Absolutely impossible. The EFI makes it drivable. It idles smooth, it runs smooth at low speed, it's got instant throttle response, and it still makes the big power that the Hillborn made in the old days.
What we're talking about, folks, is and Chuck, can you see the fuel injection from your shot or no? You can get a little bit of it. This fuel injection is essentially designed for midgets and sprint cars, and it works perfectly from 3/4 to full throttle. But that's it. And on the street, you're never at 3/4 to full throttle.
No, you're at part throttle, and that's where the EFI comes in. It allows you to tune the thing to work right. And with the 2.5-inch throttle blades over each hole, it's really difficult to get the low-speed air signal correct in the fuel mixture. The EFI does that.
Electronic fuel injection has really saved this. Plus, to me, the nostalgia look, I absolutely love it. Tell us what else has been done with the car.
Well, the nostalgic look was what I was after, to build a Corvette that looked like a mid-'60s road race car with today's technology. I took an original 427 Corvette that was my car that was wrecked really bad on 9/11. The car was literally broken in half. And rather than restoring it, I made it into a pro touring car. And as you know, this is the current trend of builders, these pro touring cars. I decided to make one that actually works. We've taken it out to the road course. We set this thing up real carefully with new C5 suspension in the front, C4 suspension in the rear, adjustable sway bars, adjustable coilovers. And it's been out to the road course and been tested, and the car really works well.
So you actually drive it then?
Absolutely, just like the purple car. The idea is to make it look nice enough to show in these indoor arenas and then take it out to the track and race it and drive it on the street.
So maybe you're not exactly just body and fender guy, or maybe you're both racer and body and fender guy.
Racer at heart.
Racer at heart. I can kind of tell you. I love it. You know what? And I think these cars really should be driven at some point. You know, it's that constant dilemma. We just interviewed Bob Delia with his new 59 Chevy, just an absolute showstopper and all that. Problem is they get so nice you can't use them. You got to keep them in a glass case. And I don't think that's for me.
No, and Bob's car is a beautiful car, but it's purpose-built to go after the Riddler Award.
Riddler Award, yes.
And you have to plan on not driving a car like that ever. So each
isn't that, I think the public would find that interesting, that you're building a car that you are planning not to drive.
Well, I'll put it in this category. You're going to build a NASCAR to race around a circle and spend $1 million doing it, or an Indy car and spend $15 million doing it. They spend X amount of dollars to build a car to go to a show and win, and that is its sole purpose in life.
A little bit, yeah. It's almost a little bit more like sculpture.
Yeah,
like
it's art.
It is art, and it
definitely
reminds
art.
me a little bit too of the chopper, the motorcycle chopper thing. Some of this stuff is, I mean, it's take your breath away artwork. Not really functional,
No.
but take your breath away artwork. And
Well, that's the idea, you know. So I wanted to stay at a level where you can still use the car, because to me, if it sits in the garage or sits in a bubble, it doesn't get driven. It's nothing but an expensive garage ornament. These cars have a purpose, and the Corvettes, you know, GM designed these cars not to get groceries. These were designed to go out into the road courses and to have fun, and this is an extreme version of that.
well, it's a great car. And Chuck, I want you to show the audience the car. He's wrapping me up. I've got to wrap it up. Take a look here, because this is a car that you just may see on the street.
Brent Jarvis's work is always beautiful, but he's a racer at heart and wants to drive what he builds. Now, speaking of beautiful, we want you to meet Motorsports' favorite showgirl for 4 decades. It is unlikely there is a garage in America that doesn't have at least one picture of Miss Linda Vaughn.
I have with me Miss Hurst Golden Shifter. Now, for you guys that are in your 20s now, you don't have a guess what I'm talking about, but for you guys that are my age, you all know what I'm talking about. Please tell the folks who you are.
Hi, I'm Linda Vaughn with Hurst Golden Shifters, and it has no age limit because those guys out there, the 20-year-olds, like to shift gears too. You look behind me at these great muscle cars, and it means no age limit to this wonderful show that we're at.
Well, you're right, but there's something that's very important about Linda Vaughn. Linda Vaughn is probably the icon. I'm going to use the word trophy girl. I'm not sure if I mean that exactly. What I mean is that our community has always included pretty girls in cute costumes because our community is half machinery and half art. There's a visual side to our community, and the women have always lended greatly to that. And of course, I don't have to tell you, over there has been thousands and thousands of women that have participated. But you are the one that stood above all the rest of them. You are the one that's been, how long now?
I've been involved in the industry 40 years, Bill.
40 years. That's absolutely, and I remember, I was saying before we went on camera, I was out at Riverside Raceway. I was watching Richard Petty, and it was the winged NASCAR cars at the Riverside Road Race Course, and on the parade lap, Linda Vaughn was standing up in a convertible with the big Hurst Golden Shifter. Do you know what I'm talking about at all? You had a gold costume?
Yes, I sure do. My mother, May, made that costume, and that was Richard's victory out there. We had so much fun on the road courses. You know, it is now a housing development. Things of progress out there. Sadly,
that's not progress, but go ahead.
But it was really sad to have lost that racetrack, but we really, really have some great racetracks out there now. So you'll have to come back to California because Richard still is involved, you know.
Do you have any idea how much impact that you've had on the guys over the years?
Well, look around you. It's been great.
Okay,
it's absolutely wonderful.
I've got with me. I got a physics professor here. Come on in here. This is, you're not going to believe. He is a physics professor. Tell the folks once again who you are.
Al Pasternak.
That's right. You were a physics teacher at Lane Tech High School, my alma mater.
Well, I went to Lane Tech with you, but I was a physics teacher at Old Orchard Junior High School in Skokie.
Okay. Now, I want you to show the picture to the audience here, starting with this one. Just hold it, and Chuck, tell me if you got that. Don't move it so you can focus. Have you got it?
It has no age limit.
What year is that?
It's 1979 at the Arlington Park Racetrack when they used to have car shows for Popular Hot Rodding magazine.
And this is Linda Vaughn.
This is Linda Vaughn and myself and my son Eric.
And show the one underneath it.
Well, you ready for?
I'm ready. Go to the one underneath, and Chuck, come back onto the other one. Go ahead. This is
yesterday, and you'll notice that Linda and I haven't changed a bit. But look at the Eric; it's a very different Eric.
Boy, you're not kidding. He's almost a man.
You would almost think so. Now you'll notice also I'm wearing the same red sweater and the same pants.
Well, teachers don't do that well. We know that.
Yeah.
I'm teasing.
Since '79.
Okay. One more thing I want to add to this, Patty, if you would please come on over here, and I want you to stand right out here, because what Patty doesn't know, because Patty, you don't have any idea who this is, or do you?
No, just a pretty girl.
No. I will tell you something. Patty has been on our show, Motorsports Unlimited now. These are the young women that come along to replace the Linda Vaughns. Linda Vaughn is the icon.
You don't replace Linda.
No, you don't. No, I've said it poorly.
Just join to the family.
But
she's a blonde too. That's good.
Oh, you have. Is that prototypical? Don't you have to be? You have to be blonde.
That's perfect. Yeah, my Hersets are all blonde.
Yes. So Linda has been doing what you're doing for 40 years now, and is recognized by every automotive magazine, every automotive writer, every television show. She is the absolute statement of what you're working to achieve. Right? Now, most important question, so she can hear it. Has it been fun? Have you enjoyed it?
Oh, I've enjoyed it, but I do a little more than that. I work with Detroit and OE, that's Original Equipment Manufactured. I've built actually quite a few cars that we've built with the Hearst Oldsmobile packages, the Hearst Pontiacs, and I've built a hot rod myself. And it's more involved than just being a beauty queen. And I have a degree in marketing and advertising, so I usually put it to good use and marketing our parts for America. I love the American car and I believe in our American heritage. And if you look around you, the love affair with America, and I'm still doing it. It's because I love it.
That's all fine, but you know the part I like, right?
I don't know what part you like.
It's not the marketing degree and all.
But I have to tell you that yesterday there was a line all the way down the block waiting for her signature, and people were paying money just to stand in line to see and talk with Linda Vaughn.
As I talked to her before we went on, I realized I'm not sure you know how important you are to our community. I'm not sure you know there is not a male, young or old, anywhere in the country.
Too.
Are you? I assume you did that for marketing reasons, right?
I just did it for my own reasons.
Oh, okay. I'm not going anywhere, folks. Miss Golden Shifter, Linda Vaughn.
Thank you.
What a terrific person. I'm so glad I had a chance to meet her, and hope my career will provide me with some of the pleasure Linda's brought her. She was so nice off camera and on. Now, let's get back to the cars with something new that's happening. The emergence of people seeking out the work of high-performance car dealers from the past. In Chicago, that means Nikki with the backwards K.
Well, folks, I'm 62 years old, so I know why the K is backwards on Nikki, because Nikki Chevrolet was a car dealer on Irving Park in Chicago, and their advertisements and all of their shtick was Nikki's with the backward K. To those of us in Chicago at the time, us young guys in Chicago, though, Nikki Chevrolet was a whole lot more than that. Nikki Chevrolet was the place where you went for high-performance parts. Now, you have to remember, back at that time, and I'm talking about in the late 50s, you didn't have muscle cars hadn't even been invented yet. So when all of a sudden you heard of a car dealer that in their parts room, in the parts department, they had 4-speed manual transmissions laying there in crates and fuel-injected Corvette motors, that was a big deal. No one did that. Nikki Chevrolet did it, and I can tell you right now. I bought a set of solid lifters, Duntov lifters, which were made by Chevrolet for $16, and a Duntov cam for $20, and these were out of the Fuelie Corvettes. In my opinion, and I've made this pitch a lot of times, I think the reason the flathead Fords ruled hot rodding for 25 years. And something happened in the mid-50s where the small block Chevy took over. What I believe happened is when all the new overhead valve engines started coming out in 1949, and then the Chrysler Hemi in 51, and the small block Chevy in 55, all of these new engines, anything anybody wanted to modify, they had to pretty much go out and make the parts and all that. Well, Chevrolet had a different use for one of their small blocks, and that was the Corvette. So you could go into a Chevrolet dealer and get Corvette stuff for your 55 Chevy station wagon, including cams and dual quads and all that, and you got them at General Motors prices instead of Eskandarian prices. An Eskandarian cam would have been $75, the Duntov Chevy cam was $20, and I believe that's what launched Chevrolet into the performance world and why the small block Chevy eventually took over. Not that that's all that important right now. I haven't let the guests even begin to speak because there's some important news about Nikki Chevrolet, and you are.
I'm Stefano Bimbi.
Okay, and as I understand it, because my friend John Platani, we've had him on the show many times, Mr. Chevrolet, he's the guy I call when I've got Corvette or Camaro or Chevelle questions. He's an expert on it. He says, Bill, and this is almost kind of funny. These guys are a lot younger than me. Bill, what we're going to do is we're going to reconstruct the Nikki name. We bought the Nikki. How am I doing? Is that right?
You're doing good.
Okay, and I said, John, you don't even know what that is. You never even went to the place. It was closed before you were born. Am I right?
No, John was around. I don't know that he's been there or not, but I actually remember going back there with my father because their parts department was open till midnight.
Yes, it was.
And he needed some gaskets for a car he was working on in his garage. And he ran down to Nikki and grabbed me one summer night, and I went down there with him.
So that was the time you were there?
That's the only time I was there, when it was still open.
It was an icon. I'm glad that a younger guy like you's even heard of the place. It was an icon for those of us that did it. And a little later on, I'm talking about the 4-speed train. That was a big deal. Doesn't sound like anything today, but at that time, there were no 4-speed transmissions. All of the transmissions in cars were 3-speed, non-synchro first-gear trans. And here comes this T10 Borg Warner in a Corvette with a 4-speed all-synchro. And to actually see them on the floor at the parts department of Nikki was very, very cool. Now, Nikki's been gone for how long?
The speed shop closed in '77, and the dealership closed in 1973.
So it's been gone 30 years, something like that. Okay. Now, they were involved in lots of racing stuff, because another thing that you could kind of get a glimpse at if you went over there, naturally, we were kids, we didn't have any money to buy cars, but as we went to parts, we could see them putting in 427s into Novas and stuff like that, the guys in the back. And as I understand it, those cars have now become highly sought after.
You're absolutely right about that.
So even, we think of the Yenko stuff, but even the Nicky stuff, which is, I think, probably harder to document.
It's very difficult to document. You have to have a real chain of ownership and a lot of paperwork and a good history on the car in order to document the Nicky cars.
Okay, well, one of the things Nicky was involved with was road racing, and if we take a look here, in fact, Nicky was involved with a lot of performance stuff, and this is from one of my favorite era cars, the Trans Am era. This was very, very cool. We're talking about a car that probably weighs about 1,900, 2,000 pounds, folks, and producing some 800 to 900 horsepower. This thing is a rush.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and do you know what killed this series?
No, I do not, Bill.
Porsche.
No kidding.
Yeah, they looked at the rules and they said, oh, yeah, we can do one of those. So they built a Oppose 12 turbocharged Can-Am car that made 1,200 horsepower and won every race and still holds records at some tracks today. And they were the only, that's what happened. Because the idea of the Can-Am cars was big American V8 in a British Lola type chassis with huge torque and all that. And the Porsche just took it. It was the 917/30. Awesome car. Anyhow, they weren't just about this, and 4-speed transits, and my memories of the Duntov cams, which, by the way, is important. It's part of our history. I don't want to underplay that. But they also did, like, regular cars for people. And, Chuck, if you would go down here to the red one, and I hope you can see, I hope that sign isn't blocking it. I hope you can see it says Nicky Camaro on the side. Can you see that? Just behind the left front wheel. If you can't, we'll get a picture afterwards. Nicky car.
That is a Nicky car. That is a Nicky Bill Thomas car. That's a very historically significant car, because in 1966, Bill Thomas, who had the backdoor connection with General Motors, hooked up with Nicky Chicago, Nicky Chevrolet, and decided that they could put a big block engine into a Camaro. And that's one of the first Camaros that they built in collaboration. Mickey Thompson used that particular car, that very car, to design his headers. That car was the prototype vehicle for his Mickey Thompson headers.
Did all of them have the Nicky signature on there, the chrome thing saying Nicky, all of his, or do you know?
All of the conversion cars where they took and transplanted the big engines in, that were ordered from the dealership, had the Nicky emblems on them.
Do you have an idea how many were built there?
We really have no idea, but Nicky was such a large dealership, they built many more cars than any of the other speed shops or any of the other dealers.
So if I understand it correctly, what you guys are doing is you bought the name Nicky and you're going to sort of reserve, but it's not going to be a car dealership. You're dedicated to the stuff that Nicky did years ago. Do I have it right or no?
You do have it right, but we are going to be a licensed dealership. We will be selling muscle cars.
Okay, but you're not going to sell like new Chevys or things like that?
We're not going to be selling new Chevys.
Okay, so everything is devoted to this period of history where Nicky was significant along with Yenko and these other players kind of twisting General Motors' arm and if they couldn't twist General Motors' arm, they bought an engine separate and put it in themselves?
Correct.
Boy,
now we do plan to get into some of the what we call continuation cars when the 08 Camaro comes out and do something with that.
The audience doesn't know what you're talking about. Folks, this has gotten a little bit crazy. Ford sort of started it with the Mustang, going to the retro look and all that, and Dodge they haven't dropped the bomb yet on the market, but they dropped it at the shows of their new Challenger, which has the retro look, and now you're coming up with the Camaro. Help me.
We plan to take the new model Camaro, the new generation that comes out, and do the same thing that Nicky did back in the day.
Okay.
Is take that car, personalize it, make it go faster, quicker, stop better, handle better, and look better, and have it compete.
So you're going to, without having the actual dealership, do kind of the same thing.
Similar, yes.
Similar thing. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll watch with interest. It's pretty cool, and it's cool to me, but he's just a little bit over 40. He doesn't even know Nick. I was there. It's cool. What they're doing is cool.
I find it interesting that the only car dealers that seem to have found a place in history were those that somehow played a role in high-performance vehicles, from Yenko Chevys to Royal Oak Pontiacs to Mr. Norm's Grand Spalding Dodges, and now Nicky Chevrolets, all emerging as historically significant. Now, Bill found exactly the right car for Rena to talk a little bit about upholstery. It has a gorgeous handcrafted interior that is inspiring.
Today, as we mentioned earlier, we're talking a lot about interiors because I think it's the place where there's so much room for creativity. And when I spotted this car bristles with creativity. It's not just the interior, but I think the interior really makes a statement about the entire car. It's beautifully designed, and I used to say when I was a teenager, I used to draw cars like every young guy. I spent a great deal of time drawing the interiors and all that because I always felt that the interior was more important to me than the exterior because I don't see the exterior when I'm driving it, but I see the cabin that I'm in. and I think this is just absolutely beautifully done. We're going to find out about the car, and you are.
Joe Kowalski.
Where are you from, Joe?
Muskegon, Michigan.
Tell us about your car. What do we have here?
It's a 57 Chevy mounted on a 2002 Corvette C5 frame, engine, transmission, rear end, everything.
So you've got fully independent rear suspension and everything?
Yes.
And with the transaxle?
Yes.
Boy, that wasn't easy.
Nope. You had to cut it in half and made the frame longer to accept the body because the body's 10 inches longer.
Boy, did you do any of the work yourself?
All of it.
No.
All but the interior.
You did the paint, you did the sheet metal work?
Oh, yes.
Are you a professional in that?
No, just a hobbyist.
What do you do for a living?
Own a machine shop in Muskegon.
Boy, you're in the wrong business. This is gorgeous.
Oh, no.
That'll match the work of any pros. That's beautiful. Not only is it pretty, folks. What I'd like you to do is I'd like to go over it and open the hood. This is pretty cool. If you would, go ahead. This is pretty cool. You can tell the guy is apparently a machinist, too, because it's not just a matter of fancy sheet metal. This guy's got some real functionality. And, Chuck, we want to shoot so you can see the front of the car here. This is pretty cool. Go right ahead. Now talk about an easy way to do this, and I would imagine if he gave it some thought, he could have this do this, he could have the retractable roof do the same thing, have the whole thing open. If you would, come on back here. You can leave it like that. All hand built, and apparently all done by you.
Yes.
Well, congratulations. That is wonderful. I have not seen this car before. Is it your first time out with it?
First time, yes.
Well, I'll tell you something. Congratulations. Beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you.
Very, very, very eye-catching. Now, I want to do something else while we're over here because the interior in this car is so striking. Don't run away. Rena, if you would, please come on over here. I told you earlier, folks, we want to step right in here, Rena. Again, I want to reintroduce this is Rena Borowitz. This is Patty Borowitz's mother, and she has been the chief seamstress, I guess is the way you could say it, for Ogden Top and Trim. Everybody knows that shop. I don't think we've ever been a place that didn't have their work displayed. Well, for 20 years, I've been seeing her sewing work and not knowing it. She's quite gifted and quite talented. As a matter of fact, I told the story before that on my GSXR 1100 Suzuki motorcycle, I got a tear in the vinyl seat, and I was heartbroken over it because I love the bike and all that. And I asked her if she could do the seat. Well, not only did she do the seat, so if you want, I can do it in leather. I thought that would be impossible. This is a very convoluted seat. I wouldn't think you could make, it's an animal skin. I don't think you can make it follow forms that it didn't intend to follow. Well, I'll tell you something. It's unbelievable. And talk about a difference after 2 or 3 hours of riding. The leather is just absolutely the best. In any event, the question came up to me, and I talked to Rena because we see Rena every week, as to why the guys, like for example yourself, as gifted and talented as you are, you didn't go after the interior.
No, I didn't.
Because
I've never done one before.
So it sort of intimidates you.
Yeah. Well, yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Doesn't it intimidate you?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, you
I'm
said
joking.
No. You said that you work on Ferraris, and,
definitely.
and none of that bothers you.
No.
Does not bother you?
No.
Okay. What I want to do very quickly here is just run through a couple of things. Now, what I'm trying to do is encourage people to rethink this thing. There's as much room for creativity in that interior as there's on the exterior, as there are mechanical bits and components. And I'd love to see thousands of people trying that to see what kind of art they would create. First question I have is, everybody knows tuck and roll. You look to be about my age, so we all wanted a tuck and roll interior job, right?
Yep. Yes.
Okay, show us tuck and roll.
Apparently in 60 and 70 they did have, so with the top stitch. And now we are doing a little bit an event when we do a blind stitch, you call this. You
okay,
see, you don't
hold on a minute.
that,
I want the audience to see this,
stitch.
and I want the audience to see this. This is important, folks. There's more to this than just we throw the name tuck and roll out there. Now take a look compare both of these, Chuck. Can you see on the one on my left here that you can see the stitch, and on the one on the right you can't? Now the one on the left is called a top stitch?
Right.
And the one on the right is called what?
Blind stitch.
Blind stitch. So something like this I assume is harder to do?
It's harder to do, and you sew twice in one spot, but it's stronger also.
Stronger also, and looks classier.
Very
So you're learning about interiors. So if you want to do tuck and roll, you want to talk to them about having a blind stitch rather than a top stitch. Now, did you know all that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, but it's kind of important. Yeah, it's real important. It's very interesting. Okay, now the stitch that I like the best is what's called the French seam.
French seam, right. Here we got it.
Okay, I want the audience to see this. I'm going to hold it up for them so Chuck can come in and zoom in on it. Go ahead, Chuck.
French seam is like you're sewing 2 pieces of material, then you spread them underneath and you sew on which side.
So in other words, this is 2 pieces of material folded together,
right,
and then sewn 3 times?
And then you're sewing one on each side. So actually, it's 3 times.
You're actually sewing the seam 3 times?
Yes.
Sewing it like rolled over together and then sewing it. I love that seam. I love that around dashboards and all. I think that's really nice.
Very
Okay, now what would fall in next? This one?
Yeah, that's same thing.
Now again, we want the camera to see it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
I'm
okay.
going the other way. That same thing is just that I want to show you. That's all right. I want to show you that stuff. You could make a 90-degree. You could whatever seam
your
you want,
imagination.
imagination or whatever you want to do with that seam. You could use it on any kind of car.
So what we have here is this French seam, and it doesn't have to be straight, is what you're saying. Because I would think it would have to be straight because you've got a curled over thing, but you don't have to have it straight.
No, you're not.
You can. Do you have to heat it to bend it?
Actually, you see on the top of that backrest.
Yes.
What is the Wildt? Instead, this we can put the French seam, and we'll be looking more
Wouldn't that
elegant.
be nice? Wouldn't that
That would be really.
As I say, I want people to learn about this.
Then
That
you could change the colors.
yes, and change the colors too. It's very
you could
cool.
change your thread color.
It's gorgeous. Now let's go, because we're running out of time. I can't believe that we could do 5 shows with her. Believe me.
We got just that Chevy.
She did this because we're going to ChevyVetteFest. So we got a ChevyVetteFest embroidery thing here. Now here.
Here we got a Wildt, just like you do have on your seats.
Right, like you have around your headrest and all that. This is a Wildt, and you've got a piece of Wildt material here, don't you? Let me hold that up so the audience can see what we're talking about.
Show what that looks
Okay,
like.
Chuck, can you come in on this at all? Do I have to hold it up against something else so you can see it? Are you okay? Okay, what it is essentially is a piece of rope that's got leather or vinyl wrapped around it, and it's sewn, and then this, presumably then, you would sew in between, and you would. Now she did a contrasting color here so you can see it. This is the Wildt that's sewn into 3 pieces of material, and that's how a Wildt is done. What's next?
Now we got the top stitch, which is sew only on one side, but it's sew all double, sew together and
okay. First you flap it over,
right.
sew it, and then you lay it over the other piece and sew it again.
Correct.
And this is called a top stitch.
Top stitch.
Okay.
Now we got diamonds.
Okay, and this also, folks, is a little bit crazy here. And again, if you know what you're looking for, this is diamond, what I call diamond tufted. It isn't as popular as it used to be. I personally think a T-bucket needs a diamond tufted interior. I think it just works well on a T-bucket.
That would be nice on a racing seat.
But there's more to it than that, because what they do on these diamond tufted things, if you would take this now, is they get very elaborate with these things, and on some of them, the diamonds are actually sewn together pieces. Each one of these is separate. It's all been stitched, and then when it goes onto the seat or whatever you're going to use it on, then the buttons are applied. So you end up with each one is like a puff, right?
Correct. And you have to puffed up with hair, horsehair, or any kind of stuffing like.
It doesn't just puff up by itself.
Right, exactly. Okay. You have to puff your own. And here, just for bikers.
Here's just she went and played. Now my seat, I'm a person, I like things stock, so she made mine exactly perfect. But I was so impressed you can do that with leather, with real leather, and make it follow the contour of the original seats. It would strike me as impossible. But here what she's done is she's done a Wildt. You've got a Wildt around the edge, and this is all top stitched?
Yes, that's a tribal design, just like people today doing tattoos and all kind of different stuff. And that's probably all.
Okay, once again, I'll give you an idea. You've got French stitch, you've got top stitch, you've got piping, you've got welts and all this. And the combinations of this stuff, Chuck, go back over here. The combinations of this stuff, you end up with a different kind of car. I'm sure as you look at it now, you might say, hey, if I did the French seam where all that piping is, it would really change the look of the car.
Oh, yes, it would. Sure would.
A nice, elegant.
Yeah. Then you could see a different contrast, too. Then it would be you wouldn't have that piping, it would look smoother.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the whole, as I say, she's such a talented lady, and I see her work, and she takes it so for granted. I said, let's go and talk to people about it, because maybe out there's some young guy that might want to get himself a sewing machine and go at that interior instead of always saying everything but the paint and interior. Anyhow, Rena, thank you so much for going through the effort of bringing these samples and making the samples up so we can show people what's involved here. Interesting, no?
Yes, it is.
And really. Go back to his car. Oh, I'm sorry, one more. Chuck is, Patty, please come on out here. You know, when we do these shows, everybody says, well, you should have done this, you should have done that. Folks, there's 1,000 things. All I can do is bring you a little bitty taste of these programs, of what's going on at these shows, because there's so much. You know Patty. Patty's been with us now, what, year and a half, something like that?
Almost 2, yes.
Okay. I don't know if this is going to go on the air in time. I don't think it will, but this is very important to Patty. Patty is in the running for the Loop Girl, to be the Loop Girl, right? As a matter of fact, and you've made the cut?
To the top 64, and they're narrowing it down to 16 now.
Okay, so you got voting coming up, and you're all excited, and you hope maybe you can be in the final part of it and everything like that. So we're pulling for our own Patty Borowitz, too, and I hope you are, too.
I'm very excited about my chance to be the Loop Rock Girl, But even if I don't win, it's been great fun so far. Now, with time running out, let's see if we can squeeze in one more.
Of course, Chevy VetFest, like World of Wheels, like all of these shows, depends heavily on the participation of car clubs. And there are a number of car clubs here today, and obviously one of our favorites is the American Street Machines Car Club, because these folks got involved with us many, many years ago, and Janine Lauschat has become an integral part of our program. As a matter of fact, we don't have Janine Lauschat here today. We have a substitute Janine Lauschat, and I want him to introduce himself. He's been helping us all day. Tell the folks who we are.
Hi, I'm Matt Fields, president of American Street Machines Car Club.
Trying to fill in for Janine.
Trying to fill
Which
in, but
means
my
what?
hair doesn't look as good.
Well, that's not the only thing that doesn't look as good, but what he's essentially doing, show the audience what you're doing.
Well,
she's doing this.
I'm doing this.
Yeah,
I'm stopping people from getting in the camera shot.
Anyway, and you're doing a great job. We appreciate your help. And as I said, the car club participation in all of these shows is really, really important. And Chuck, if you swing your camera shot around over there, we've got the North Shore Corvette Club, a very, very active car club.
Time's up. It's really difficult to stop him. He loves this stuff. But time waits for no one, and we're out, with only enough left to acknowledge the fine work of our award-winning production team, including Chuck Itzenthaler, Sue Cassanda, our webmaster, Frank Barbalace, Rena Borwitz, and Tom McGrady. Special thanks to JBTV's Jerry Bryant. Music is created for us by independent artists Roger Pauley and Jerry Herbert. Of course, we have to take a moment to thank the stars of this edition of Motorsports Unlimited: Janine Lauschat, Patty Borwitz, and our host, Bill Wildt. Me, I'm Samantha Bentley, pleased to see that Chevy VetFest hasn't missed a beat. It's still a top-notch, first-class presentation. We knew the new guys could do it. Thanks for watching. See you next week.
This program made possible in part by support from Jimmy's Red Hots, located on Grant Avenue and Pulaski Road in Chicago.
This program made possible in part by support from the Chicagoland Toys for Tots Motorcycle Parade, held on Western Avenue in Chicago, the first Sunday in December.
This program made possible in part by support from ABC Auto Parts, located on Ashland Avenue at 138th Street in Blue Island, Illinois.
Motorsports Unlimited is produced by Bill Wildt, president of the Motorsport Advancement Crusade.
This program made possible in part by support from Bridgestone Firestone and your local Bridgestone Firestone tire retailers.
This program made possible in part by support from Copy That, located in the County Farm Plaza at County Farm Road and Army Trail Road in Carroll Stream, Illinois. This program made possible in part by support from PB Food Products, located on 47th Street at Western Avenue in Chicago, Illinois.
This program made possible in part by support from J.C. Whitney & Company, located just off I-80 at the Utica exit in LaSalle, Illinois.
Motorsports Unlimited was created to raise public consciousness, understanding, and appreciation of the motorsport community and their activities. You can contact us by email at msutv.com, or you can write to Motorsport, P.O. Box 66242, Chicago, Illinois, 60666. We enjoy hearing from our audience. Please let us know what you think.
Next week on Motorsports Unlimited, we have the difficult task of informing you that 2006 will be the last season for Lake Geneva Raceway. In the lower right, it's Kevin Dawson, owner and operator 20 years ago, talking about his plans for his recently acquired racetrack. In the upper left, it's a sadder Kevin Dawson, today announcing the end. Join us next week on Motorsports Unlimited as we try to understand.
So that's it, another edition of Motorsports Unlimited and the lovely ladies of motorsports. And be with us next week because we'll have something real exciting. Bill Wilt's going to have the lovely ladies, and just about anything can happen right here on Motorsports Unlimited. Every week at this time, we bring you the best in motorsports. So, be seeing ya. Bye-bye. And keep on rocking.